Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm very happy that one more time I got the opportunity to meet with the dear members and friends of Ahlul Bayt Islamic Society of New England and also Zikr MIT Shia Muslim Association. As Dr. Musallai said, this is the fourth lecture of the series about Hazrat Maryam Mary in the Quran. The verses we're going to discuss, we discussed last lecture the kind of the verses listed above. I haven't changed them, although I'm not going to discuss all of them more, but we are going to discuss a subsection of them, which I will discuss again from different angle, different perspective, and some stuff which we didn't say. So in one sense, will be focused mostly these first parts of verses from Surah Maryam and Surah Al Imran. The topic today will be annunciation. So the focus today, last lecture, we focused mostly about the second takaful, custodianship of Mary when coming out of the temple and the issue of the Joseph the Carpenter, which was verse 44 of Surah Al-Imran. This, we are going to focus on this issue of the announcement, annunciation, or the angel telling her that he will conceive to the Jesus, peace be upon him. But as usual, for the blessing and for the starting, I will start from these verses. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحسنت فرجها فنفخنا فيه من روحنا وصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين. The reason also we cite this is the really summary of the whole, or the reason behind the whole lectures. The Maryam is the role model for all mu'mini. Quran mentioned the two ladies, you know, the wife of Pharaoh, which the literature call her Asiya, and Mary, the daughter of Imran, as the role model for everyone. And then I read the translation regarding Mary, which could be related to topic today specifically too. And Mary, daughter of Imran, who guarded the chastity of her womb, so we breathed into it our spirit. So this two-part, فَنَفَخْنَا فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِنَا. She confirmed the words of her Lord and his books, and she was one of the obedient. As I said in the previous lectures, the following is the list of the surahs in the Quran, which some discussion about Hazrat Maryam is present in them. They are listed chronologically. There is no difference between how this chronology is listed by the Sunni scholars, Shia scholars, and modern Western scholarship. So all consider more or less the same order. The two surahs with most content about Hazrat Maryam, as we said, is Surah Al-Maryam 19, the first, and Surah Al-Imran. Surah Al-Maryam is Makki, Surah Al-Imran is Madani. And then we had some verses in other surahs. But even our discussion today, again, will be mostly limited to Surah Al-Maryam and Surah Al-Imran. And this was the order of the discussion in these lectures, which we said we want to proceed. We discussed some of these, some from the second lecture, come to the third lecture, and we discussed these verses in the last lecture. But I intend to go back to these to these verses. So look, what we discussed more or less last lecture with these verses, but a very heavy emphasis for this one, that the second takaful, when people throw their pens or to a lot to decide who would take care of Hazrat Maryam when she's coming out of the temple. And we discuss everything in the context of it, and we look also the two of the Christian sources, intertextuality, Gospel of Luke, and ProtoGospel of James. But what we will focus today is mostly the verse 19, but or essentially the block which Christian theology usually called this annunciation. So we have one version of annunciation in Quran 19, 16, 21, which is Surah Maryam. Then we have another version of it, more or less in Quran Al Imran, verses 45 to 47. And then we saw the Gospel of Luke. This is more or less the chapter 1, verses 26-38. We read it. And also ProtoGospel of James, which is not part of the official Injil or Bible, but it's much of the stories are there, and it's closer to Quran uh, than any other book, generally regarding the stories of the birth of Hazrat Maryam herself, and then this issue of growing Hazrat Maryam, and then this issue of annunciation, which are these following verse. The section before and the first verse of the next section, so chapter 10 and 12, also have some relevance briefly to discussion today. This is the main part. So we will see why we need to go this. Look, I said that last lecture that there could be the same story, because the puzzle for us, and what is also in the whole series of lecture will be crucial part, is this issue of Joseph the carpenter, the wife or the husband, or the caretaker or the kafil or custodian of Hazrat Maryam, and then the issue of the family of the Jesus, the brother of the Jesus, and that essentially is the Al Imran. What's the meaning of Al Imran is. That will be prominent in our discussion in the whole series. Because also, it's related to Shia concept that the mother of Imam Mahdi, 12 Imam, is descendant, at least alleged descendant of either a companion of Jesus, which I disputed that or mentioned it, or we're going to see that. But actually, I believe that's a misunderstanding. She is descendant of the brother of Jesus, which was the leader of the church for a long time. But that will be maybe a couple of lectures from now. I don't know, maybe 2 lectures or next lecture even. But that's the important issue. But I said, look, you can tell the same story, but giving different importance to different personalities. We read in the version in the Quran, there is no mention at all anywhere directly of Joseph the carpenter, but I indirectly with the verse of 44 Surah Al-Imran, and a little bit with verse 50-23, which kind of hints to the place of the settlement of Hazrat Maryam, Hazrat Masih, after the birth of Hazrat Masih is Nazareth, because the address it gives, the place which is very good, have good flowing sweet water, is a high place, all matches Nazareth. We argued indirectly that Joseph may be there. Quran is not against the presence of Joseph. And today also I will allude another indirect argument. So Quran doesn't mention it. In the Gospel of Luke and ProtoGospel of James, this Yusuf al-Najjar or Joseph the Carpenter has a prominent role, has an important role, but the leading role is for Hazrat Maryam. Annunciation is visiting. This is what the stories tell. The first leading act person is Hazrat Maryam. Things are surrounding her. And we also mentioned there will be a movie soon, December 6th, which is also about Hazrat Maryam. That's much influenced by ProtoGospel of James. Here, Hazrat Maryam has the upper hand, but that Joseph Carpenter has some role too. So we can tell the story that way, and then at least the angel come and visit and talk to Hazrat Maryam. That's the important part. But we have another version. It's very, very, summarized. I go fast to it in Matthew. And then I can say, you see, again, the same story. This time, the prominent role is to Joseph. And then especially, you see, this is the book also bring the lineage of Jesus. We will see it, I think, next lecture, through the Joseph. And while Luke, which we said, give the more prominence to Hazrat Maryam and her family and so on, Elizabeth, Zachariah, take the lineage through the Hazrat Maryam, lineage of Jesus. His lineage is important. The whole discussion is important. But I because to summarize and review, I briefly read this because that is not our main discussion. But this paragraph explains everything. Before this, we have the lineage, which is essentially the lineage of Joseph and how Joseph is related to Jesus, if we believe is conceived miraculously. This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. And what I will argue today, this sentence may be correct according to Quran. There is one subtle point which would Allamah Tabatabaei, without paying attention to this topic, expresses, and I feel if we could take the wording of the Quran, can match this exact situation. Because this is a little bit difficult situation. You are pledged to married or you're engaged with someone, but before coming together, you're getting pregnant. So we discussed this is a sensitive issue, but the fact of you getting pregnant without any male needs a miraculous proof. Whether you're married, not married, whether engaged, you're not engaged, whether you're old or young or what's the age, all of it needs a proof. So maybe it doesn't at the end change anything when you have that miracle happening, but still, because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. See, so is nothing specific about Mary. All Joseph is important actor. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. And so angel appeared to, at least the stories, it says some angel came, even as a say angel, he said Holy Spirit came and make Mary pregnant. Oh, okay, Holy Spirit we can kind of consider is kind of angel or close to an angel. But look, the annunciation or the dream or talking is happening all to Joseph. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son. You are to give him the name Jesus, which is different from Quran, kind of, and the naming kind of come from God, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. And I don't think we need to read more, but you see, yeah, let's read because there's one paragraph more, sorry. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord has said through the prophet, which is it's a quotation from book of Isaiah, but it's always a dispute between Jews and Christians that it is the exact quotation. Which version was it? The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary as his wife. So the one is get revelation, the one who's the communication happened to him, the one who's mere actor and the leading actor, everything is his perspective is Joseph. Just we have Mary around him. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son and gave him the name Jesus. So that's the part also matches that, okay, they're engaged but not consuming marriage. So today, as I said, let's read the verses which we want to discuss one more time, the translation, to have them fresh in mind, and then I will tell why this discussion is needed. And mentioned in the book, Mary, when she withdrew from her family to an easterly place. This easterly place also still is our question, what it is. As I said, it's more probable it is the temple. But this is we discussed it a little bit. Let's see when the discussion will see. Let me just read the translation. Thus did she seclude herself from them. And this is here is secluding from the family. So going to the temple and being was like etikaf. You're sitting in the temple or mosque for a few days. You're secluding from your family. Whereupon we sent to her our spirit, and he became incarnate for her as a well-proportioned human. So the spirit is sent, our spirit is associated to God, Ruhana, فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. The difference is, you see where this location is, there are differences. Christians think is mostly on all the drawing paintings, and the one I had the first slide showed, they think this coming of the angel happened when Mary was Nazareth. And the idea was that the house of Joseph the Carpenter was in Nazareth. which we discussed it. This could be true, but because she went visit Elizabeth and because she also was working also some decoration of temple, which again could be important in or we refer to it in the discussion today. She was working for decoration because while she was taken off the temple, but still the marriage was not consummated. So he was betrothed or engaged to Joseph, but waiting to wedding happens, which a custom, Jewish custom is there. There is some period there to officially. Then they said because she's virgin, she calling her to help her some decoration of the temple. And it could be she's still close to the temple. But as I said, people read these very successively time-wise, like this day after that, the day after that. But it could be long time separation between them. You know, when the tabasat min ahla makan al-sharqiyyat, other this part of the verse should be connected. So we discussed fattakhazat min duna hijaban mostly goes back to the previous one. People, I mean, you can understand differently, but that is my understanding now is that by going makan al-sharqiyya, maybe it's a temple, we stay in the temple. When they put her in the temple from 3 years old to because this is a brief story in this part. The full story is in Surah Al-Imran. And then وَاتَّخَذَ مِن دُونِهِمْ حِجَابًا means it's separated from them. They don't see her much and so on. But during some stage after this, maybe 10 years past, but let's read because the main topic is not this today. Thus did she seclude herself from them, whereupon we sent her to our spirit. He became incarnate for her as a well-proportioned man. She said, I seek the protection of all the beneficent from you, should you be God-weary. He said, I'm only a messenger of your Lord that I may give you a pure son. So we'll see the discussion today we will have mostly will be around this verse 19 and around this verb or this part. قال نوانا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. Okay. She said, how shall I have a child seeing that no human being has ever touched me, nor have I been unchaste? Okay. Let me discuss this. This is Allamah Tabatabaei have a discussion, and I think this transition is good. Look, Hazrat Maryam answered two things. قالت أنا يكون لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر. Allamah says this part, and لم أكن بقية. بقية means rebellion, unchaste. That is بقية, like the one who rebel, go out of the boundary. Tokyan or something like that. So means I didn't broke the law. Okay, so there are two ways you can get pregnant. One is inside the law, that getting married, okay, and legally married, and then one is outside the law or boundary of the law. You be Tokyan Gar, breaking the law. Okay, this is the only two ways you can do that. Now, the first part, Lam Yastansni Basharon, Allah says that it is referring to the legal one, but nobody touched me. But that's exactly the wording, you know? Doesn't say she doesn't say I have not married, I'm not engaged, I have not for example, in talking, she said, effectively says, nobody touched me. That means it matches the story with the Yusuf Najjar that she's betrothed, she's engaged, or even officially wedded, but still this guy hasn't touched him. So look, Lam Yamsasni Bashar. This separation is Allah. I will show it to you guys in a few minutes. But the conclusion now is from me. Lam Yamsasni Bashar is, this distinction I think is correct because she's because it would be enough. It would be enough to say Lam Yamsasni Bashar because it will cover both cases too. You know. If nobody touched me, no matter I was in the boundary of Sharia or out of Sharia, this couldn't happen. But I think the repetition here, as Allamah Tabatabaei says, maybe Malam akun baghiya. And especially the mindset of Maryam is surprised, said, okay, I'm engaged, but this guy didn't touch me. So I shouldn't be pregnant, and I wasn't doing anything wrong outside the Sharia. So I'm saying this wording matches. There is a Joseph engaged, but not any relationship. And Allamah Tabatabaei is that, although in the version in Surah Al-Imran, we will see in a minute, because it's a briefer, the second part is not mentioned. Just as Islam yamsasni bashar. But here they emphasize that we need to emphasize two parts, which the first one was enough. But now you can interpret it. The first one is maybe the legal one. But for her, she doesn't say, I'm not married, I'm not engaged, I don't know anyone. Nobody touched me. It doesn't say I never talked with any man. No, it said nobody touched. Okay. قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين ونجعله آية للناس. Okay, let me read the English. ونجعله آية للناس ورحمة منا وكان أمرا مقضيا. He said, so shall it be. Your Lord says, it is simple for me, and so that we may make him a sign for mankind and mercy from us. And it's a matter already decided. So something really decided in higher hierarchies. Okay. So we go to Surah Al-Imran and look, this starts from here. إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يبشرك بكلمة منه اسمه المسيح عيسى ابن مريم. So you see, the name is told by the angels to Hazrat Maryam, وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة من المقربين. يكلم الناس في المهد وكهلا من الصالحين. So let me read the English. When the angels said, "O Mary, Allah gives you the good news of a word from him whose name is Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, distinguished in the world and the hereafter, and one of those brought near to God." So he's one of those brought near to God. He will speak to the people in the cradle and in adulthood and be one of the righteous. She said, my Lord, how shall I have a child, seeing that no human ever touched me? So you see, here she only says, قالت رب أنى يكون لي ولد. But here she says waladun, okay. فلم يمسسني بشر. You know, again, nobody touched me. It doesn't say I wasn't rebellious or unchaste. قال كذلك الله يخلق ما يشاء إذا قضى أمرا فإنما يقول له كن فيكون ويعلمه الكتاب والحكمة والتوراة والإنجيل. Now, two things I want to notice. First, here is waladun, but there we had غلام. So you see, but here you see they match each other. غلام, here غلام is used, there is waladun. This part needs lam akun baqiyyan. But there is one important difference too. Here, farsalna elayha ruhana. Here we send ruhana and singular. And then there we have malaikatu. It's plural and malaik. So we can put malaik and ruh kind of equal, but plurality brings some questions, and we'll see some people have tried to answer it. Look, Allah also discussed it. It could be, was an entourage with Gabriel. Gabriel was the main group coming, the leading of a group coming, talk to her. He was the ruh, because it seems maybe ruh is a category of malaika, because ruh of Jabrail is. I don't want to go to this issue of tafsir of ruh, and malaik and Jabrail, you know. But the understanding usually is that ruh is Jabrail, and Jabrail is a category of malaika. So he maybe have some other malaika with him. So as a group, as a mission, you know, delegates to Maryam from the upper levels from God. And then at that other stage, he only talk. And usually when you send a delegate, you say as a foreign minister or something like that. You don't care the other people that much. The other group. Here maybe it's a combination. But here is the different. You see, here is another way, which I think, even actually I should have emphasized it. Another way that emphasizes that this must be, I'm sorry, Okay, I'm going in the wrong verse, but this is Malaikatu. I was looking to this verse when coming back, but here is, sorry, is this verse. Okay, but it's the same. إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يبشرك بكلمة منه اسمه عيسى ابن مريم. Again, we have Malaikatu here, and then the previous verse I came back, but I didn't came back enough. Here we have Ruhana. So what I was saying was correct, but we just like keep it in the wrong verse. The plurality, I'm saying if somebody has a question, must look to it. Allah has explanation. Maybe we can look at it. But one is Ruhana, is Ruh, and in singular, here is Malaika, plural. I have another explanation too, but this needs to go into the ProtoGospel of James. The ProtoGospel of James, twice Malaika talked to him. Twice she's talked with. One is she's outside, like the figure actually painting, which we had, is depicting it. And I think this is influenced by Christian stories. She was out to get water in a well that is sometimes people interpret, maybe Meccan Qur'an was here. And then somebody give a sound, like hearing a sound that's telling her that, okay, you would do that. And then she's kind of scared and or something, go back to her room, and then another angel appears to him. Usually people assume they're both the same angel, but if it's the different angels, the one who really make the sound is from the entourage, the one who really talked to her directly is Jabrail. So you can have plural. I mean, I don't know how big it is, but okay, it's a difference. And then we need to be aware of it. And okay, this is, I know some of these today is minute, but exactly some of these, because the Quran can play these games and go into the very fine details, and we believe it's word of God. So this is what we play with we go through that game to do that kind of commentary. فَأَنَاتُ مَلَائِكَ وَأَقَامُوا يُصَلُّوا. Okay, again, this is another verse. This one. إِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُبَشِّرُكَ. So, okay, this is kind of the Quranic version. Let me, before going to the main idea, let me read from Allamah. So I should at least maybe stop sharing and then finding it. I will share it with you. The other one, and then we start again. Okay, yeah, it's a screen. So let's share this screen. Okay, I don't want to go all of the details, but what I want you to read, I said some stuff, so I usually prefer to go first the traditional and then go to the other sources. This time we didn't. So I'm not going to go all what Allama or other people said, but the point I want is, I would say, I mean, one thing maybe I show you, the translator, unfortunately, has called Mary Amram's daughter. This Amram, we discussed it, is not clear. This is the name of father of Moses. This is, translator knows something, but I think not enough that this is dangerous to do it. This should be translating Imran. We are not sure Imran, we discussed it, is Amram's Moses' father. So we discussed it in one of the first lectures. One idea is about the book. Have this in mind when later on I go to the main article, this sentence be in your mind. Look, when in the first verse 16, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ, the book means the Quran or chapter of Surah. So here, God said to the prophet, وَاذْكُرْ in your book, Maryam. And then I have in mind, the book hasn't developed yet. Quran hasn't developed yet. We are at the beginning or early middle stages of Meccan period. So verses are coming. You might have as a body of verses now that be able to call the whole collection of verses as a book. And then this is kind of being established. But then it says in your book, which is Quran, which is being developed in the sense revealed and more of it is seen. Also now is the time to mention Mary. So this one have in mind. And then the other one which I want to emphasize is that this hijab is what covers something and conceals it from others. It was as if she concealed herself from her family and cut herself off from them to devote herself to worship. This is an isolation. It could be in the temple. It could be still she's out. I think outside the temple, maybe still in the vicinity of Judea. We discussed it, or it could be in Nazareth. Doesn't matter. I mean, she's alone. She's worshiping. She's maybe doing that weaving of the decoration of the temple, and this is the one we must have. Uh, okay. There is a long discussion. I don't want to go about what means tamassala, what does it mean that a spirit appears to Mary, Gabriel. We have to accept this. This is not the angel become human, get human body form. It appears to the senses, to the mind of Mary. Now with this, we can estimate, two ways. Like you have a hologram image of some person in front of you is not that person, but is the hologram image of person, which very often is realistic. So it's an image of the person which you're seeing. So that hologram is real through space. I mean, any other people can see that hologram too. So it's a real image, but it's an image, not Jabrail, doesn't become human. Or it could be some manifestation in the mind of Mary, because you stimulate the right things, and they are doing virtual reality stuff like that. They do. So she may see an angel standing in front of her, but somebody else in the room, if we beside her, wouldn't see the angel. This is only generated by right nerve stimulation or not in her brain. There is long discussion Allamah has done about this stuff. So, which I'm not going to go through that, but if anybody interested, read it to do. And then Allah will conclude that we saw the word was the spirit, we saw malaik, ruhana, and malaik. And this support the interpretation the spirit sent to her was Gabriel. And then he also alluded that the verse we said this is plural angels, but here the verse was singular. Our spirits, and then I think he has an explanation for it. Kind of, it says that angels said to the Mary, and their dialogue with her, there was the same as what the Spirit says to her. Reference to Gabriel as the angels, despite it being in the plural, is the like referring. This is his explanation. As I said, this could be the explanation. As I said, could be entourage coming, and then one of them, you talk foreign minister talk, just referring to foreign minister, meet with the, for example, foreign minister of China. But sometimes you would say the delegate from Iran meet with delegate from the China, but it's the same. When foreign minister with foreign minister of China, there is usually delegate, but you refer to the real person, important person in the thing. So Quran, one person called Ruhana, which is part of the angels. Ruh still is the category of angels, but angels have ranking. So, the foreign minister is part of the delegate, but the delegate is more than foreign minister. There are other lower ranking. That's one way to say. One way I explained was that maybe there are really a couple of angels and they talk to Mary different stages. And then that is not from Quran. But here the Allamah explanation is that reference to Gabriel as the angels, despite it being in the plural, is like referring to something said by a single person and something said by a group because of the group sharing the same form, custom, or habit. A person representing the group. What is the person says, for example, dispute happens between the soccer teams. The captain said something to the referee. Sometimes you would say, okay, the captain so and so, for example, Ronaldo said that, or sometimes you would say Real Madrid players said that. I mean, because the captain is representative. So sometimes you can use it plural. This Real Madrid people are, I mean, Ronaldo is not anywhere there, but generally. So this is the argument Allah is saying, that there are many examples in the Quran such as these. Allah said there are other examples like this. You can see that when the Quran says they say, it's actually one person is doing the saying, but that person is talking as a representative of the whole group. So we have angels and Ruhana. But I'm still thinking it must be one more than angel present. So it was a delegate. All other hadiths, usually when angels come in, there are many, there are plenty. They say if we return to Medina, the mighty will surely drive out the meaner from therefrom, and to God belongs the might, and to his messenger, and to the believers, but the hypocrite do not. No, so there was one munafiq hypocrite said, was angry about how the spoils of the war was distributed by the Prophet, and he said, if you he thinks he's doing favoritism to Quraysh. When we went back to Medina, we would do and that. There is 1% saying, but Quran referring to them they. Or another example, and when they said, oh God, if this is the truth from you, the rain upon us stones from heaven or inflict on us a painful punishment. Again, this story, if you look, although the Quran is referring to them as a plurality, but it seems 1% is said. The spirit is referred to as God of the gravitation to give a sense of greatness. This is also important. Why the spirit is reset? Our spirit, Ruhana, our spirit is. This is a big discussion. Again, Quran clearly God doesn't have son. But have ruhana, but min amrina. So this is a topic. Maybe we come back to one of the latter lectures. The spirit is referred to as God's spirit out of gravitation to give a sense of greatness. The meaning of okay, we're not going to discuss that. There is a reading, which I'm going to show it to you later on because that's the day reading. Although I have to go a little bit faster now. An example of full recitation in Ruhana instead of, there is one that our discussion today will be mainly Gharat. I haven't started really. An example of full recitation is Ruhana instead of Ruhana. Ruhana is then somebody read this Ruhana and then they call it like Yuhanna, which we have in that explanation last time, and then by reading Ruhanna, make it a specific name. Like Jabrail is a specific name, Israfil is a specific name. This time, this angel name is Ruhanna, which could be, but really doesn't match to the spirit of the whole, this verse, other verses, and it's some just which Allamah kind of said, look, this is some claim in the Vic exegesis that the spirit referred to the verse is G. Okay, this is another important topic that Ruhana I said. This one I'm going to discuss it later. But okay, let me read it. Have this in mind. This will be actually crucial to our discussion today. Some claim in a weak exegesis that the spirit referred to in verse 19:16 is Jesus, but that the subject of tamassala there appeared is Gabriel. The problem with this interpretation is obvious. Okay, whether obvious or not, we will discuss it, but look what it says, because you can read it claiming there are two. We usually read it claiming as one. فَأَتَّخَذَتْ مِن دُونِهِمْ حِجَابًا فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا. So this is Ruhana 1, and تَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. This commentary has claimed first a ruh was sent, and then something else has appeared as human beings. That one appeared as human beings was the angel Gabriel, but what was sent as ruh is Jesus himself. Okay, why they have to do this, we will see. I am later on, which is the main topic. I'm going to another article to do it. Okay, I have to go through the.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's the meaning of Sevilla? You may mention that before, but
Oh yeah, a well-made man, like a straight man, a well-shaped man, well done man. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Uh, let me see. I can find that because I came here for that point. That's we'll see. Let's put Tamasala aside. Yeah, there is long discussion about what tamsil means. These are all philosophy And then because these I mean, I don't think we need. Yeah, let's go to the one because I want to go to the main topic. But there are these are interesting as to know. One interesting, Alama says she hastened back to speak to him because of the shock of his coming to her. The Quranic one is suddenly he appeared, and it must be a place she doesn't anticipate or is kind of feeling a little scared. But let's go. There is some discussion about the verse. Hazrat Maryam says, "Ani a'udhu bir-Rahman." So this is a'udhu bir-Rahman is like ani a'udhu billah min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Ani a'udhu bir-Rahman, and then exactly minka in kuntu taghiyan effectively is that minka if you become a shaitan. You know, it doesn't say like that. Aqali anu a'udhu bir-Rahman minka if you become like a shaitan. The reverse it says, I hope that you are become a taqiyya, muttaqi, guarding. And then there are discussion here that because unfortunately we don't have time. But this one I said it, but I really want to read it because I think this could help us to have the Joseph in the story. Joseph, because I'm not today is not about him, but I was reading this come to my mind. A mortal touching her, so this is the one I'm talking. قالت أنه يكون لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أكن بغيا. لم يمسسني بشر hovers in some sense لم أكن بغيا. But the way Allah may break it, and I think makes sense, this لم يمسسني بشر is the legal way, marriage way, but she's engaged, but nobody touched her. She doesn't say, I didn't marry, I didn't see any man, I didn't talk to any man. But lama kut baqiya means I didn't violate the regulation of Sharia. And mortal touching her is allusion to marriage. Exactly. And made opposite as it is to being unchaste is reference to fornication. On its own, a mortal touching her could mean either, technically is only that. No, mortal touching her means cover both. That is why he contents himself with just saying, and no mortal has, and this translator unfortunately made a mistake. That is why she contents herself. I don't know how they didn't know. This is about Mary. That is why she contents herself with just saying, and no mortal has yet touched me in the story as told in Surah Al-Imran. I told you in Surah Al-Imran, only we have this part to express both cases. The question is rhetorical. That is, how can I have a child if a man has never associated with me, either lawfully through marriage or unlawfully through fornication? But this wording has a more resonant meaning if you know she's engaged. If you know she's married and then come say, oh, she got pregnant, and say, then she swore nobody touched me. So, I mean, it's not the issue of marriage. We legally we are married. And then I'm thinking, this is in her mind. Imagine she's scared and she's suddenly replying, and then he said you have a child, and then she wants to say, okay, I know maybe I'm married with this guy, but we have no relationship, and I was an unchaste. So, okay, this is one part of my talk today, but let's go back to the main part. The main part is, you see the new article now. Do you see this new article? The slide changes?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Will be this article, but before that, I want to go, just give me 1 second if maybe I can do another tab. This qira'at, I'm going to give main idea immediately now, but then because no suspense will be there, but then there are a few details there. Look, remember, this is the Dr. Shadi Hekmat Nasser from Harvard website that give you the qira'at. The one we are looking here, maybe, okay, we have to go to verse. Okay, look, it will show us the earlier verses too. I want one other one too. You see, this Ruhana, which is the one Allama mentioned. Look, you click it, somebody Ruhana is the one we have. No, Ruhana is the one we have. Let me put the vowels. Okay, what we have is Ruhana. Okay, what we have is Ruhana. Is okay. One has ready Rauhana. Okay, that's just I think pronunciation, Ruhana, Ruhana is like, but this is the one I told you, Ruhanna, which this guy has made it like Yuhanna, which we discussed it, made it a proper name. This is like say Ruh Ra. You know, we have people like that. Like for example, Pejuhesh or Pajuhesh in Farsi. I still I say Pajuhesh, but everybody say you have to say Pejuhesh. Okay, that's like that. Rauhana or Ruhana. But this one is more change and Ruhanna. That makes it proper name, which Allah clearly rejects it, and we don't need. And both are called Shas. You know, SDH. If you go to the coding,
And
the
then,
coding.
if you consider Ruhanna, the meaning is different. I mean, Ruhanna
Yeah,
compared to
yeah.
Ruhanna.
The Ruhana means our spirit. Ruhana become proper name, and then like is like saying Arsalna alayhim Mikael, Israfil, and one angel specifically means Ruhana. So Farsalna alayha Ruhana. Yani, for example, we know all these angels are friend with us, and then Ruhana sent as a mission, not Jabrail. So
Okay.
some guy you read it as a proper name, specific name, but really it doesn't make sense because here the emphasis is the function of ruh. Ruh is when Amr Rabbi and is angel, but one of the angel with big function, which people assume it's Jabrail. And then so other angels are there, but like the foreign minister is the important one, but the other people maybe with them. But this is not our topic today. It is this one. قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. So, um, so look, the reading is لأهب, that I give you. قال إنما, the angel said, the Ruh says, and I am a messenger of your Lord, that I give you a pure boy or pure son. Now, the other reading, there are a couple of reading. Uh, this one I think is the main one. I don't see any difference to it. The one which we are going to discuss is La Yahaba Laki. It's to be given to you, to be given to God gives you. If you read it carefully, the only way it means is a third person to give it to you. So, you know, the question we see in this verse is this, and that's the one they raise, that, okay, is it here the Gabriel, the angel, the Ruh, says, I will give you a purified son? Is there any problem here or not? You know, that will be discussion, but that is a theological discussion. There are people that were, this is the story of the readings, and I thought, okay, we are here, somehow relate to our previous talks, and then we can see what kind of scholarship, Western or non-Western, go to these kind of things. The Yahabali is means that God gives you. Yeah, because it's referring to third person, but definitely the third person is God. That I am sent here as a messenger of your Lord, to tell you that God is going to give you a purified son. There is a read that so these two readings are attested in the 7 canonical ones, which if I will be discuss it a little bit more later on. So is the common accepted 7 canonical one. You have both versions. That's our discussion will be. There is and although despite this is Aleph and Ya, they both assume matches with the Osmani rasp, which again we have to discuss how this can be. But then there is this CDX means non-Osmanic, Shah's non-Osmanic. If you look Shah's non-Osmanic code. First is Shah's is odd, not many people attested to it, one or two, and it doesn't match with Osmanic text because you have this extra one. So it's reading قال إنما أنا رسول ربك أمرني أن أهب لك غلاما زكيا. That is, I've been ordered to give you. So it's not simply I give you. There was some discussion here that, okay, what does it mean to Gabriel gives. And there is two other versions, which here is not listed. We will see one. The other two, maybe I keep it for the discussion, because I give it all, then I give everything here. And the discussion is a little bit detailed. So I keep some surprises or points over there. So this is the accepted reading. And this is the one majority reading, or the Qira'at Asim Qira'at Hafs, which is the Qur'ans are now printed like that. This is the Qira'at we will see was accepted. And then the whole talk Dr. Shadi Ahmed Nasser gave about Qira'at, we can look at it. We had also a discussion in Farsi, which
Ghoddoussi, sorry to interrupt you. It may not be related much here, but the difference in color, what does it mean? I mean, white, the red, and then the green.
Yeah, I think he color coded them. The red ones. Yeah, I should have used a more reverse coloring. The red ones are the semen readings which are accepted, which Ibn Mujahid choose. You know, when they decide to choose 7 readings, Ibn Mujahid was the, and then the 10. Then after a while, some people come dispute, say, okay, why those 7 at 10? Then, but there are 2 groups of 10, a little bit disputedness. So these are the 10 reading cobras, then 10 reading Surahs. Then some people make it 14. Then there is some readings which is not attested in one of those accepted readings, but still matches the rasm of the Osmanic. Then some are which are very shaz and not accepted, but not matching Osmani codex. This is the one we have because of extra word. And then there are all, and then he put Shi'i readings too. Yeah, Shi'i readings too. Yeah, this is, I mean, unfortunately, he's working alone. I think, anyway, this could be improved if anyway. So this is the story. Let me tell you in the background, although I will repeat it, because also people may come different time or detail. Like the questions is there, a couple of question is this, because the Christian one, as I said, is called it annunciation. Annunciation is different from conception. That is, the idea is that somebody tell the Mary that you are going to have such and such son. But when she actually conceived that son, what is the occasion? I mean, it's right now, 10 minutes later, 2 days, 5 months. This distinction was there. And they look, because I can tell you this would happen when it happen 2 months from now, or 6 months from now, or so on. So for Zechariah, he was told when he was in temple that you are going to have a son, but at least needs few days to go. He go back home and be with his wife to this conception happens. The same for Mary herself. When we saw in the story of the his parents in ProtoGospel of James. But if you look here, Quranic one doesn't talk about conception. I mean, distinct conception, annunciation. If we accept this reading, قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. I mean, okay, we can read it, but it seems the same messenger, while delivering message, effectively that means to give you a child. And then some people say maybe there was no separation. The announcement occasion is the announcement, the conception of the child too. Although it can be interpreted, I mean, some of these are splitting discussions, and that could be the reason the readings were also different, because people come to the story with different understanding. If you read it, لَلْيَهَبَ لَكِ غُلَامًا زَكِيًّا, that is, I give much of the story today. If you read it, the second reading, which is attested, it means to God to gives you. So put some separation. Occasion of annunciation will be separate occasion conception. Because the Gabriel come and said to the news, good news, you are going to have a child, God will give you a child. But when God give you a child, maybe later. But the first reading, La'ahaba, is kind of combining the two timing. But you see the same dispute existed in Christianity. And at early stages, maybe they were more tend to separate the two time points, annunciation and conception. But the latter stages, maybe the Syriac Christianity is closer to Quran, they kind of make them the same. You know, the act of, because also we know that when answering to Zechariah, it says, maybe I go to the first verse. Uh, kind of God says when He says something will be. Look, قال كذلك قال okay, here we don't have that exactly that way, but essentially when God wills something, that will happen. Uh, and then قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين وخلقتك من قبل ولم تكن شيئا. So this is, look, the point we can say, and I'm going to elaborate on that, maybe a little bit hair splitting, but that's a top, you know, the questions classical scholars have sometimes is different, this modern mind has. Here is why these two type of reading sometimes can maybe indicate difference in the manuscripts, which we discussed it before, I maybe discussed. But sometimes maybe because of different background understanding they have, they start to read it differently because there are groups which have some understanding of Christianity and they say this must be the case. So if you are intended to think this must be two different time points, one of them annunciation, one of them conception, you go more this. And also there is one other reason, we'll see that. And if you are more intended, don't know about that, or you see the script is written like that, you go like this. So that's the story today. But this is Amarani and Ahava is really a word, is like commentary. This is extra. And it's like, we'll see that. This is like some guy wants to double binding it, make it sure. But there are two other readings too, which one of them interesting, the other one, again, we cannot much trust. So this is the idea today we were discussing, and then kind of by going through that, although we don't have much time, but I think I will go to 8:30, 8:40, maybe a little bit more to kind of, because in I know it's very only one verse, one reading, but we will see some interesting stuff, which kind of take us back to what we used to do. Okay, I mean, some other, we did not used to do, we did in some of the previous lecture. Okay, this is, yeah, again, by Sean Anthony, we are somehow familiar, and is mostly related to this verse and this reading. And it claims this reading was not that intrigues in this verse have not been noticed by scholars. You know, the intriguing textual history of Qur'an Maryam 1919 remains neglected in modern scholarship, and he wants to pay attention to it. And then he starts to mentions that there were discussions from very, very early that people were discussing about this kind of different readings. So one of them, because some of these names is famous, you know, some of these discussions are historical. So I'm not per se saying this is correct or not, but these are those who know Islamic civilization, Islamic culture, mixed Sunni and Shia. These are very big names. Look, for example, this Al-Farra, especially those who go to seminary, Shia and Sunni, have heard him. These guys have very important role to developing Arabic grammar, you know, schools of Kufa, schools of Basra. Look, Sibawayh is one, for example, Al-Farra. Let's see what kind of, I'm not saying sometimes it's not necessarily what I agree with or not agree with. You know, one of the early philologists, Al-Farra, you know, he died in really a few years after Imam Riza, so it's very early. Provides one of our earliest comment on the curious wording of the verse. So we're only focusing on 1919. I repeat it again. This is the part is mentioned in English transcript. أنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. Now, the dispute they have is this. He observed that at the first blush, the statement, so that I may give you, لأهب لك, a pure son, appears to imply that the spiritual messenger impregnates Mary. The angel, the Ruh, the Jabrail, the Ruh, sent, he himself gives Mary the child rather than God. But then Al-Farrar rejects this interpretation, explains that the giving of the boy is from the God, though the spirit Gabriel speaks to her as though he himself is the giver, which is correct. Look, for example, a delegate from a king came to some guy and he says, I am sent here to give you this medallion because of your bravery. So I am sent here to give you this medallion. I give you this medallion, but essentially it's the king is giving you the medallion. So this is the wording, and I think could be also the language difference. You know, some of those guys maybe not Arabic speaker, Persian speaker, so on. So maybe it was a hair splitting, but people started to ask, what does it mean that Gabriel gives this uh لأهب لك غلاما. You know, why he gives it to Maryam, why God doesn't. But that essentially means that. And that the one you see added أمرني لأهب لك, that other third reading, which was non-Osmanic, had an extra word. I think somebody wants to, double lock it, completely safe in it. Had لأمرني, that is, I am, or which is evident. You know, I am, or when I say I'm here, as the king sent me to give you the medallion, I don't need to say the king sent me here and he ordered me to give you the medallion. Essentially, is clear what I'm doing. So لأهب لك, so that reading maybe. But is that one thing also we should notice too? Some of the readings some of the readings are mentioned, the books that some guy read it like this. For some of them, we have now manuscripts which exactly says that kind of reading. For some, we don't. We just have a book which says that so and so read it like this, or it was in their book like that. And some of those are not accurate, some are. That Amarani la'ahaba laki, the third one, I think, is we don't have any manuscript like that. Some guy says, I saw in some manuscript like that. And it could be, it was a note of some companion, some personal note added to it to explain it, and is absorbed in the body or call all those stuff. So those, unfortunately, the website Dr. Shadi Nasser Hekmat doesn't distinguish between these, because his list is not based on the manuscripts, which is very incomplete, is based what those qira'at books are saying. And they ascribe some book, for example, to Imam Ali. They say Imam Ali would recite like that. We don't follow that, because if Imam Ali really recite like that, we shouldn't recite Quran as we do because we are doing Asim ibn Hafs, So we this issue of qira'at, they ascribe to Imam Ali like that. And some cases is true. Look, last lecture I was emphasizing Kafati is correct, I think, because makes more sense. But this one, look, I'm not much to the detail, the outcome. The outcome, I think Lahaba is okay. But the one I want to tell you is, as far as time allows us, to take you a tour of modern scholarship, modern disputes. Sometimes you may feel hair splitting, but some of this tour is interesting in itself, and brings some points which are of interest. Look, okay. Yeah, okay, so I'll give you the answer, Al-Farra, which I think was right. There is one other point which I think we need to mention here is this. And Al-Farra give an example, the same way Allamah give examples of that plural malaika is really essentially means singular, because one person is really talking, so you can refer to him singularly, but that one person is talking as effectively on behalf of a group, so you can refer to him as plural. So Al-Farad similarly gives some examples in this regard. Uh, uh, he mentions some examples. It says Quran is like that. Then Shanantoni himself says something interesting, which again, this could be a puzzle. For example, this is because related to, do the words of Zechariah, we gave you tidings. Because you see, the angels before coming to Mary, or they come to Zechariah too, and they promise him that he will have a child. Inna nubashshiruka of a boy named John. Yeah, this dispute is regarding that issue of malaika use a plural, I think. And then Inna nubashshiruka of a boy named John, in verse 7, reflect the speech of God, employing the plural maistasis, or they do reflect reported speech of angels. And similarly to the verse 15, 53, 54, if the words reflect the speech of angels, why did Zechariah reply, my Lord, Rabbi, in verse 8:10, there is no clear way to resolve this ambiguity. Okay, this is his opinion. Let me show you what he means exactly here. Look, we can see it here without going any other place, but so verse, we going one. Look, if you, this is sometimes careful reading when actually that's exactly the part which I was looking. Yeah, it was 8 or 9 or 10. So you see here, Ya Zakaria, Inna nubashshiruka. See that there's different reading. Yeah, well, that's not important. Inna nubashshiruka bighulamin ismuhu Yahya lam naj'al lahu min qablu samiyya. Okay, so nubashshiruka is plural. And so who's talking? You know, when they come and telling the Zakaria in the temple, uh, that we are giving you good tithing. This is plural. Okay. Is it God directly talking to him? Uh, so it's if God talking to him, it's possible God uses the plural, the kingly language. You know, the kings don't talk singular. Say they don't say, I order this. They say usually we order this. You know, this majestic language we have in English, we have in all the Semitic languages. So it could be that Ya Zakaria inna nubashshiruka bighulamin ismuhu Yahya. Or angels are talking. You know, there are angels are talking because you feel the one who come talk to him were angels. At least the discussion we had was angels. But then you see he replies, قال رب أنى يكون لي غلام. So then you would see here he replied to God and singular. Again, this could be angels are communicating with the Zechariah, but Zechariah is knowing angels are mediator, is really replying to them, but effectively knows his reply goes to God. This is a kind of, we have to go back, and I don't want to go through that, but that's also a point to consider. Again, this issue of plural or singular, you have another version of it here. There I give an explanation. This is another one. I mean, the reason is that if it's God, okay, it's solved. Zechariah. So God is directly talking to him. But the whole feeling, and at least the story we read, it wasn't God directly talking to him. And then we can look to Surah Al-Imran 2. Let me just 1 second, maybe add another one. I mean, I don't want to stay here. Maybe I go, after this, I will go to the article, maybe finish it by half an hour, definitely. Because I want to just give a tour. I'm not much detailed, but okay, if we go to Surah Al-Imran, and then we go to the verse 45. Okay, before that, so yeah, look, the reason is this. This is a little bit complicated, is this. Look, فَنَادَتْهُ مَلَائِكَتُهُ. Here in Surah Al-Imran is, Quran explicitly says malaikatu. And this is Zechariah. I'm saying that issue of plural and singular. I go back to the Shanatay. In Surah Al-Imran, clearly is talking malaikatu. فَنَادَتْهُ مَلَائِكَتُهُ قَامُوا يُصَلُّوا فِي الْمِحْرَابِ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يُبَشِّرُكَ بِيَحْيَى. So is malaikatu calling him when he was praying in the mihrab? So who calls him are malaikatu and plural. So it makes sense to talk about inna nubashshiruka. So these are malaika. but plural malaika. But he returns back, says Rabbi. Qala Rabbi. And then, so talking to malaika, but referring to Rabbi. I think we should be careful, aware of this fast changing things Quran. And again, Quran is summarizing the story, this style of Quran. So essentially, he knows who's his messenger. These are messenger. So, and he knows when he's telling the malaika is heard by God immediately. So, essentially, although he's addressing the messenger, but effectively he knows he's addressing God. So, he directly give God answer. So, look, some of these details are interesting. This is another one, which I have to say this Dr. Anthony was careful about, which I haven't seen and I haven't saw it even. I think Allamah address it. I'm not sure. So, anyway, but let's go to the main idea faster. Look, this issue, Farhad also answered it. Look, he said, you guys, you make it kind of the story uh, uh, out of, look, for Farhad, it's not a very of any other reading, other manuscript. It just le'ahaba, lucky, and lahaba says, okay, some people say, oh, okay, this is Gabriel give the child to the Mary. Does it make sense? And then he said, yeah, it makes sense. Because effectively he give it on behalf of God or from the God. So as I said, when I sent somebody, king sent somebody to give a medallion, and I said, I'm giving you the medallion, but effectively I'm giving the medallion from behalf of God, so shouldn't be any problem. But it sees this, there were stories historically related that there was a dispute about this. And one other story, which I'm not going to go through that, there is many detail here, is about Ma'mun. But I briefly say Ma'mun was a young guy, and a couple of guys were training him for reciting Quran. And then Ma'mun one time recite this verse, instead of use لَأَهَبَ لَكِ, use إنما أنا رسول ربك ليهب لك. So Ma'mun recited that recitation, which is not the one in our books now, but it shows it was common. So that's another argument we can say. So we want to say those two recitation, la haba laki, was there. But when he read it like that, the ones who were listening to him, which is a famous guy, become his chief justice, said, please, Amir al-Mu'minin, don't read it like this. I don't think this is right. And then Ma'mun says, why this is not right? Because Ma'mun said, those guys said this doesn't match the rasp, Osmani rasp, because you have le'ahaba is aleph. You know what I mean? We can go see this, because me in front of us sometimes helps. So look, yeah, because look, apparently it's hard these two be the same rasp. You may have them if you remove the vowels. Okay, maybe you can read it لأهب لهبي, some other thing, but you cannot read from apparently لأبي لله يهبي. That's the opposition of the guy in the early 3rd century or late 2nd century was telling Mahmud, look, you are reading something which doesn't match the Osmani one. But there are some people come dispute that and say, okay, even does match or not match, it is the reading. And so you see, it's a dispute happened. He's the prince, he's the educated prince. Some guys very kind of maybe rudely stopping him. For kings, that, okay, please don't recite like this is not matching. The other guys jump in, maybe they want to get favor from him, or I'm a little bit adding to it. No, those all guys are serious guys. Said, no, this is okay. Why it is okay? Because they say there we know that two of the Gharis were reciting like that. The Basran reader Abu Amr al-Ala. So remember, Abu Amr al-Ala, the Basran reader was reciting like that, Le Yahabali. And then we know also a Medina reader, which was reciting like this, Nafi. And then these are among those 7 Gharis. So this story was going like that. And then the other thing which we have to, I'm going to go faster because I want to go through that. Their argument of this side was this, okay, it is correct that, okay, I have to say it like that. It seems by the time of Ma'mun, they didn't find manuscripts which was not the Ahabi. And it seems the manuscripts, at least they saw, was mostly all were la-Ahabi. There wasn't la-Yahabi Laki. Although it's a little bit too early, we think all has been gone, but it seems like that. But there were reports that earlier there were people reading it like that, okay, reading it la-Yahabi, and then they say, okay, these respected guys in Basra was doing it, this respected other guy, Nafi in Medina was doing that, and even one of the guys said your respected uncle, means Ibn Abbas was reading like that. So that could be interesting if really Ibn Abbas is reading it like that. But the other, so these are the arguments. And then one of those who supporting the la-Yahabi was correct. They would say, actually, the meaning of la-Yahabi effectively is la-Yahabi. So effectively, the meaning is, although apparently the Jibreel is giving it, but effectively it means God is giving it. So even maybe I was even it was not attested, maybe it's better to read it like this. This is one level of argument. There is one level of argument more sophisticatedly, which is right, that some people say this doesn't contradict the Rasm Quran. And then actually this is behind the reason. This both of them put in the red color and among canonical one. They say this doesn't contradict the Rasm Quran, but you will ask why Ya could be Aleph. And that's the history of Hamza. And then the way how Hamza sometimes was read or not read, or Hamza going from Hamza to Ye. You know, these are first this sign of Aleph was only for Hamza, not for Aleph like Abi. It's a very some complicated story, but some like you see Salat, we sometimes write it with Wav and then we read it with Aleph. Salat, Salut over Salu, we read it. So there are some peculiarities. I don't want to go through all the details, and then sometimes also in the recitation. Look, Quran, Quran in recitation has that Hamza. When you have to glutal stop Quran, but some in Iran and it seems in Quran, they don't stop it. Hamza was dying in the early Qurayshi recitation. They read the Quran, but the Najdis they really stop Quran. You know, they keep it. Uh, so it was a feature of language was extinguishing before Quran be revealed. After Quran with the Hamza came, this come back in Qurayshi language. Now, regarding the Hamza, sometimes instead of the people reading la-Ahabi, you know, they really because it's economically they change Hamza to ya, the la-Yahabi. So they say you can write it like the la-Ahabi, which is the Rasm Usmani, but read it like la-Yahabi. Because till that time, they didn't have any mushaf. It seems they were not aware or they become scarce or something, that any mushaf, they really write it with Aleph. So, by Ya. So didn't, at least those in the time of Ma'mun or disputes around that time, they didn't have any manuscript in front of them which read with Ya, because they didn't argue like that. The argument was that, okay, it's Aleph, is matching to read al-Yahabi, but it's okay to read al-Yahabi too. Why? Three reasons. First, some people, famous qaris in Basra did it. Okay, the question why they did it, I mean, why their authority? The answer may be there because Hamza sometimes reduced the yeah. Instead of saying al-Yahabi, they say Yahabi. It's softly coming, slowly coming. And then the third argument was theological that, okay, essentially al-Yahabi here means Yahabi means God give it to the child. Okay, there were this kind of disputes over there, but the theological is not very interesting. But you know, when you go farther now, the interesting thing now Shannon Tony tells us is that I skipped that is this. We have evidence of manuscripts. At the time he wrote, he accessed 4 old manuscripts, which are written in Hijazi style, which is so I'm kind of like telling you, I know it means hair splitting, but I mean, I think it's good to hear the history of manuscript. We did it before, and it's good to know and the story of Qira'at. So this is a topic. And then that theological solution, which some people argued, okay, this la yahabi is the real meaning of it. La yahabi is read, but the meaning, intention is God is giving the child to Mary. Maybe is the better one. You have to see, we shouldn't correct it like this. And some of, for example, Farhad initially was very sensitive. It said, no, another guy, Ubayd ibn Qasim salam. Some of them would say, okay, if you start to change a word, they said they were angry that some people read it la-yahabi. They said it's written la-ahabi. You cannot change the word. If you start to change the word here, the letter there, the Quran is changing. But those guys didn't have the evidence of manuscript, but now we have evidence of manuscript that out of 4 manuscripts of the Quran which we have, and he labeled them. One is Marsal 19, which is in Russia, one R19, which is in, I think, France or Cairo. Maybe it's Morocco. They have what now we have more. So he only, because we are not looking the one we have La Ahabi, so they read La Ahabi. So it's very ancient, it's manuscript. It's not that what people think manuscript were or what think the Sahaba read, it isn't. But we have 2 manuscripts which they have it the La Yahabi, or at least this form. Okay? It's not Aleph, and you cannot read it Aleph, but you can read it like Yahabi or something. Although there is a possibility, this matches like Yahabi. You can read it Hamza because we have Hamza like this too. But and interestingly, in one of these manuscripts, which is in British Museum, 2 people have done extensive research, Yasin Datun and Intisar Rab, which is member of your kind of, sometimes she attends we are happy have her as our community, sometimes attends your meetings. Dr. Intisar Rab has an article on this. So maybe she could have also given talk. And then the point is this, these guys, when they did the investigating, also find this is a Syrian reading tradition, sent the Quran to Homs. You know, when Syria was conquered, most of the Syria was Christian. The city with majority Muslim population wasn't Damascus, which Muawiyah and Yazid were there. Actually, it was Homs, which Khalid ibn Walid and his children would ruler. Osman would send the copies of Quran, send it to Homs, and then is Ibn Amir reading was developed over there, and then Basran reading was developed over there. But so we have a manuscript that shows La Yahaba. Okay, to show you the picture, because I want to summary, you can see it here. Look, you can see La Yahabi. This is Bi Laki Ulaman. You see? Rasul Laki La Yahaba Laki Ulaman. Look, this is Rasul, this is Lam, Rasul, but La Yahabi Laki Ulaman Zakiya. This is Zakiya. So you see this really clearly, La Yahabi, it is the British Museum one. And there is another one which is interesting because I want to shorten it, like not too much. The other one which is interesting is the Mushaf al-San'a. Mushaf al-San'a is double layered. The upper layer is Usmani Mushaf. It's very old, one of the oldest Quran we have. With carbon dating, and then the lower layer now is considered is non-Usmanic because the variations are different. Maybe one of the other companions, Abdullah ibn Masud, Ubay ibn Ka'b, or anybody else. And then the other layer, lower layer was erased, and the upper layer was written on it, but a trace of the lower layer is there. And interestingly, for Surah Al-Maryam, we have the verses 1 to 70 available to us. 1 to 70 available to us, 70 out of 93 verses available to us in this under text or lower layer of palimpsest of San'a. And then there you would see clearly again, look, this is La, Ye, He, Be. That darker ink is the upper layer. This lower ink, and this is special imaging, you know, it's fluorescence imaging. It's not, you cannot do it with, see this in the light imaging. And then this is it's very, but you can see that if you do, your eyes get, this darker one is from the upper layer, but you can see. There is one peculiarity
Okay,
here.
Ghoddoussi, sorry, what is A, what is B? What image is A, what image is B?
The
Talk
darker
about
one, the darker one is the top one, is the
No,
Usmani
no, no,
one.
no. I mean, look at
Uh,
that chart. You see a figure on an image on the top,
yeah, yeah.
A.
I think A is the full picture, and this is the zoom picture.
Okay,
Let
and
me
then
see what
zoom
Anus has done on lower text. Follow to be detailed image. Yeah, this is zoom.
in. Okay.
Actually, I didn't check where exactly the, yeah, look here. It must be here. Look, this part is zoomed. You see La Yahabi? This part is zoomed. You see the vav, this vav here is this vav, and this is here. So this part is zoomed. This part. And then there is one feature here. You see le, you see this ya, you see this ha, this be. But you see this small dot here. This small dot is like this dot. So maybe there wasn't ye, it was ne. So le nahabi. That means we. So this is the new reading. La ahabi, I give it to you. Le yahabi, he, God's give it to you. Le nahabi, we give it to you. We means either angels, because remember the malaikat, the entourage, or means the whole divine realm, God at the top, the whole system. We give it to you. This is interesting, and this could be interesting, Le nahabi. But the point is this: Professor Anthony, Dr. Anthony showed this slide, showed this reading, but he said because there is nowhere else, nobody reported it, and no other attestation, I don't discuss it. But actually, this is the work of, okay, another member of your community, Dr. Ghoddoussi و بهنام صادقی. Dr. Sadeghi and Ghoddoussi were cautious. While Sadeghi and Ghoddoussi are cautious, I myself find the proposed reading, the Lahaba, to be clearly visible, the undertext of palimpsest. So they were cautious to claim for this this dot. This is detective work, but it is. Look, if you first, the way the guy puts dot is similar, and this upper ink has come above it because this is not as dark. You can clearly see, and then this means they read in Nahaba, and then Sean Anthony says, "I believe that is Nahaba," which makes sense, but I'm not going to discuss this, but I'm going to discuss ليهب لأهب. Look, because I want to not going too much to it. Then we are just the beginning of this article, honestly, but that's fine. The point is that he start to now translate the section we have and detailed structure of the surah. And there is one feature I want to show you, and one part in this translation. And I'm definitely stop by 10 minutes from now because no matter what, I think it's enough. I want to get some feeling. This one is important because not for this discussion, for what we are going to do. And then I'm going to go to his point on translation, which is here, which is is a more minor point. Look, regarding the structure of the surah, there are a few good works coming out. The whole surah. Angelica Norwood had done it. Neil Robertson has it. There are a couple of people have done good work on it. It's referenced here somewhere. Yeah, but we can find. But Neuwirth, Dr. Neuwirth, Professor Neuwirth work is German, but he break the surah in these structures to whole surah. Look, verse 1 is separate, and then we have biblical narrative from biblical one, which is the main section 2. The surah has 3 main sections. The first one, second one, the third one, closing section. But then the rhyme of all these second part is iya, 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 except these verses 34 to 40, which will be one of our topics, lectures. And then, this is the story of Zechariah and John, story of Maryam, Jesus, Annunciation, Nativity, Infancy. Jesus foretells his ministry. The separate part, and then Abraham, other prophets, Iya. And then the rhyme of the latter part of the surah is Da and Za. So this is the structure. The point, which is, controversial, and these Western scholarship, even Neuwirth and Sean Anthony have claimed, which we will discuss it after Shoemaker and Guillaume D, is this, that these parts are additions later. I mean, okay, the question is that when is the addition? It could be Medina and is okay. It could be added by the Prophet later is okay. But shoemaker and QMD pushing it, they're added after the Prophet. And not only after the Prophet, they added after the Muslims conquered Jerusalem. And it is that. So that's part. I mean, it's not all everybody in Western scholarship agree with that part of it, but it seems Neuvert, Sean Anthony, and Sign all agree this is a latter addition, this part, which will be important. One of our lectures discussing this, whether is really latter addition in the sense they go, and at least whether those extravagant claims of QD, which is essentially they mean is written by somebody else. But that is interesting. The arguments they give is interesting. It's good when we reach over there. So that maybe take one or two lectures. But I wanted to see the structure of the surah because I had in mind to do it, but I didn't do it before. So now it's there. This is one thing. This is uh, uh, the part which I want to also mention is this translation of Sean Anthony of the first two verses and mentioning he himself says, okay, I translated myself like any translation. They have idiosyncratic choices. One of them it is, but I want to say why he did it. And mentioning in the book of Maryam when she withdrew, and mentioning in the book Maryam when she withdrew from her family to an easterly place. Vaskur fil kitabe Maryam is an okay. This one and away from them till here is okay. And away them fashion a curtain. So he kind of read fashion a curtain, and we said our spirit to her. Fashion a curtain is not using the word ettakaza. Most people use ettakaza means he took a curtain. That means he put a separation. She put a separation. She put a distinction. Maybe go to seclusion, temple, or somewhere to prayer. But the way he has done it, and he claims this way of translating اتخذ اتخذت, this is the part فاتخذ من دونهم حجابا is matching Quran because he harmonizing the story with the Gospel of James. If remember the Proto-Gospel of James, just before Annunciation, after she got out of the temple and then betrothed or custodianship of her given to Joseph, Joseph went to his business, said, okay, stay at home, I'm going business, coming back. Then she was called to the temple because she was among the virgins of the descendant of David, which they need virgins of the descendant of David to do that. Like Sadat Bashi, and then say it, and then we say it, and then, okay, virgin. And then they give her a lot. She have to do that part of weaving, some special coloring. So she took the material to do work on it. Then during that part, the angel came and said, okay, this is the blessing and this is the news for you. And then we see the ProtoGospel of James, during the pregnancy, she finished those parts and give them back to those people. And then went visit Elizabeth. I think Sean Anthony is translating that like this. But the point he argues is this. The way he has translated matches some ways Quran uses this. I was intended to look at, but I can't not. But I think he's usually mythical. He says, I looked because Tafsir is many words in Quran. 100 times has come. But he says, the one example, let me read this part. Look, here my interpretation, اتخذت ban, اتخذت من دون أهلها hijaban departs from the other translation. Like Arberry says, she took away the part from them. I take the verb اتخذت as referring to the act of fashioning, weaving, as the verse alludes to a scene popularized by Proto-Gospel of James. I mean, it could be Quran is referring to that. And if it does, a clear sign Quran, all of the chapter kind of shows that Quran knows ProtoGospel of James very well, but nobody noticed this. Discussed below that this reading also confirms the Quranic usage, as this passage is not only the one in which اتخذ carries this meaning, and then he gives the one reference, Quranic, Arabic, so and so, and then gives the example, the verse 41 of Surah and Kaput Surah 29, for instance, famously speaks of the spider who weaves a house. Al-Ankabutu اتخذت بيتا. Although, again, the wording of اتخذ بيتا means Ankabut chooses a house, or maybe اتخذ really mean fashions, because fashion and weaving a house for Ankabut is nicer than اتخذ. You know, always I read it, I thought Ankabut choose a house. But if you say Ankabut is really what it does, everybody looks, is weaving, fashioning, building a house. So if اتخذ used that way, we can read Mary is really is not taking a hijab from of his family, but he's doing that weaving of the temple. I'm saying this needs work, and this is one intertextuality with the Bible, but he claims there are other examples in Surah Al-A'raf, uh, uh, verse 74 in Surah or 148, Surah Al-Nahl, verse 68 and Kaf 21. Okay, because we want to finish, so I go forward. There is one other thing also he mentions, the idea of the book.
Dr.
Uh,
Ghoddoussi, we
uh,
have time another 10, 15 minutes if you want to take it because of
okay, so I
important
slowly,
and interesting
okay.
topic. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Then if you want question, I can answer. I mean, what I would do, I will try to finish his main points of his article, not rushing through it. Look, he says there are two further points with emphasizing. One of is the idea of the book, which is this is not related to our discussion, but I think is good to mention because maybe related to mostly the other previous discussions we had. Look, the early part of the verse I said, واذكر في الكتاب Maryam. You know, Quran says, but to Prophet mention you in the book Maryam. And Allah has some discussion about it too. But first he says, throughout this early layer of Quran 19, the divine voices addresses the messenger almost as a type of the a messenger is instructed to mention in the book no less than 5 times through the surah. And then it is not only, so let me say it. Not only the beginning of the surah, which was our concern, the whole surah, God mentions 5 times when mentioning the book. That when it tells the story of the Abraham, story of other prophets, story of, because there are few prophets Quran discusses here. So it's kind of is interesting. Maybe this is what you have to hear. Imagine who the first believers hearing the book, this verse says. The book is shaping, and now they have because when the first verses come, you cannot talk a book. Although it seems maybe it is. This is at least Western scholars have thought about it, but at least after a while you have enough body of material which is a book is shaped. And this is his argument. Let's read it. I'm not necessarily agree with him, but I'm saying, let's see. This straightforward demand begs a rather simple question. What sort of book? One solution has been to read the command Vasco not as a command to make mention of, but rather an exhortation to recall to memory something already recorded in l-kitāb, presumably meaning the scripture. You know, some people have come, uh, have read it, remember from the book, or remember the book and taking the scripture. But as we said, is mentioning this book, adding it to Quran. You know, you can think about remembering, however, this reading interprets the surah as akin to ceremony that exhorts its audience to recall the words of an authoritative scripture that its message mere recapitulates. I mean, this kind of reading, which, as I said, people like Reynolds and the one to say Quran coming in Christian uh, background emphasize, you know, they sometimes say Quran is referring to another scripture, and these chapters of Quran are commentary or homily on those verses, and they get, but you know, Anthony reject that. I'm skeptical of that reading this as it does not sufficiently attend to an important polemic that the Meccan Qur'an directs against pagan opponents. In my view, the instruction Vaskur fil Kitabir reflects not the extortion of a ceremony grounded in appeals to an external scriptural authority. He's answering Reynolds clearly, but rather a command to deposit a new revelation into the larger registry of revelatory remembrance. So it's not remember, is putting or placing or mentioning, not remembering. And then he discussed this elsewhere. The Meccan Qur'an already appeals to the pagan, manifest lack of scripture, and so on. That's one topic. So, I mean, we can work on it. Is with digression. The concept of book at this early stage, and 5 times this surah comes and mentioned in this book, essentially referring to itself and is expanding content. Okay, the other one. Secondly, if you want to accept the surah originates in Meccan context, then the Christian themes in the surah ought to be viewed as a directed towards a pagan audience and in a real sense representing the messenger's first sustained invocations of the figure of Mary and Jesus to his people in his preaching, which is correct. Because this is early as we show it. This is the first surah, I think, the first surah talk about Hazrat Maryam, I think the story of Jesus. So at some stage, Quran now is decided to mention this story and is going in detail, addressing the Christian view, while denying divinity and so on. So this is also the second point. But let's go to the main point. Look, as I said, those two readings, he discusses interesting stuff that between the Christian text and then we go to Syriac, how those Syriac fathers look to this issue. And as I said, they had some questions for them. One of them was whether the Annunciation and Conception happened at the same time, or there was separation between them. Earlier, they had views, these are two different time posts, but gradually they converge. The apparent text of Quran is more that they happen at the same time. Then they have sometimes questions how conception happened, what the angel did, from where the child went to the body of the Mary. They all thought because God says in effect of him, we blow from a spirit in it or something like that. This is for Adam, but similar to that for the Jesus. The whole thing, it was going through one of the from the nostrils, from the mouth, from the ear. They're all discussing that. Even has appeared in one of Shia hadiths, which I will show it to you, which I don't think is really reliable. Allah mentioned it without any discussing it. So, this kind of question was in their mind. But you can see, just for an example, I read this Syriac one. Look, the discussion, relationship, ProtoGospel of James, Luke, all the stuff are there. We don't need to go. There is a poem by, anyway, let's ignore those stuff. But Ephraim is a very famous and influential Syriac Christian scholar in 6th century, about 500s. And then one of this dispute also was where this confrontation with the angel happened. As I said, non-Christianity believes, at least the text believes, this was in Nazareth. The Quran, as I said, maybe more closer to the temple. And then we see here the Ephraim, for example, put it closer to the temple. And then this is before Islam. It says, when I was a child, they raised me. This is Mary talking. And then the priests of the people in the holy temple, Hayakil al-Quds, they came and betrothed me to just Joseph. So now the title of Joseph is just Joseph. And a man of its fire came and hailed me, means the angel, and gave me salutations, and I received conception and something like that. So you see, there are discussion here. I don't think we need to go through that. Let me briefly mention. Okay, look, there is as I said, one camp was believe. Look, these are, for example, let me read this paragraph, kind of explain, and then this late antique view of the simultaneity of the Annunciation and Incarnation conception emerges to a preoccupation with the rather simple question: just how and when did Mary conceive the Word of God? Answers and explanation abound. Some churchmen purported that she conceived upon being perfumed by the angel, and thus from her sense of smell, while others proposed that she conceived Gabriel into her mouth, or who then entered her womb, or that she conceived through her eyes after receiving a vision of her infant child. By the 5th century, there emerged a broad consensus on the matter of Mary's virginal conception. She conceived of the word via her ears. That's interesting, because matches the meaning of word in Quran, word kalamatan, symbolism, kalamatan, you absorb kalama through ears, not through other parts. The Annunciation and Conception were held to be simultaneous events. Upon hearing the Annunciation of the angel Gabriel, Mary also received the word of God and conceived thereof, which more matches to the the reading which we have. I have a lucky, I when he told her the news, I think simultaneously also make her conceive. And but there were other rival views too, which I'm not going really, we don't want to go through them. But the one which I think is Islamic version, and the one Allamah says this is not a very serious one, but could be explaining why some people preferred unconsciously to read instead of لأهب لي ليهب لهب لك ليهب لك. This is the one. This is the kind of. I know I a little bit shorten it, but let's go in this part I read. I think we'll finish with this. In the Annunciation scene, Quran 19, the Spirit sent to Mary is not explicitly identified. The Spirit is merely called our Spirit, Ruhana, and a messenger, Rasul. So we saw in chapter 9. The majority of early Muslim exegetes, as well as their heirs, consistently identified the Ruh and Rasul with God, whom God sent to Mary with the archangel Gabriel. So for now, kind of all the people agree, okay, this is an angel, this is a Ruh, Ruh is a category of angels. And then usually because Gabriel in some other places is identified as messenger and Ruh, I define him Gabriel too, because this is a big thing. And that's just, I think, what Christians also believe. That one dissenting early view breaks with this broad consensus among the exegetes. It first appears in Basra. Again, remember that was Basra recitation, notably the same city where the reading of Abu Amr and thus the reading of Le Yahaba prevailed. So in Basra, they got some different idea. And in Basra, really, they're always thinking differently. So out of the box, from sometimes odd, sometimes interesting. This view is attributed an interesting figure to Ubay ibn Ka'b al-Ansari, if it's true, but he has his own manuscript, which was not Usmani, the so-called master lector, Sayyid al-Qurra, of the companions of the Prophet. Yeah, if it is him, he's with Abdullah Masud, he's a famous Ari, but he went to Syria. So you see a connection between Basra and Syria. Rubaiyah views the purport was this. And then this can come, maybe he has some knowledge of Christianity, and that maybe influences his understanding, which is the case. You understand a text, but what your background is. Your Ubayyah view purportedly was that the Ruh was not Gabriel, but rather Jesus himself. The spiritual messenger declares to Mary that her Lord will give you لَلْيَهَبَ a child because he himself is that child. How this reading of the Annunciation could work, be more precise, the Ruh whom God sent to Mary was, according to Ubayyah, the pre-incarnate Jesus. This statement requires qualification. Look, this I read this and explain, and then this rule is not to be conflated with Johannine logos, at least not the Christian logos, at least not within the parameters of the particular exegetical reading, nor even with the Quranic Holy Spirit. Look, this guy, Ubay ibn Ka'b, based on the interpreting of verse Alam Zar, and the Allah's contract or ahd. Look, we have the verses Quran that God asks all the people, "Am I not your Lord?" They all testify. And then there is another verse is talking. He get a strict uh, 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 commitment, binding from the prophets. So the view which some people have that all the spirits, all the souls were existent in the previous living before coming to this world, and then they come to this world. Or some people consider that as symbolic. There is no place alam zar. This is symbolically every human being attested to the lordship of God. There's a big dispute over that, and then both groups are there. Based on that, Ubay ibn Ka'b believe the spirit of Jesus, not only Jesus, everybody else existed. Everybody else as a child is existent, or before the child is conceived existent. And the conceivement of a child is that the spirit somehow goes to the mother, the stomach of the mother. So that conceivement or coming to existence, or with the time the fetus become alive, is the moment that the spirit, which is already existent from the previous world and attested and coming to that inside the body of the child. I mean, you can have a view that the spirit is not existent, the life come to existence after a few weeks of child is conceived and developed in the fetus in the stomach of the mother, or okay. But the point is this: this view says no, they existed, that they come like another incarnation, but it's not only for Jesus. All of us have been incarnated like that, and then so he thinks the one who gives the message to Mary at the first level is the child is coming, and Jesus, and then the angel comes. Okay, those other parts of interpretation doesn't match because he has difficulty to explain Tamassala, who's the Tamassala, and so on. We don't need necessarily going through that, but I think some of these are the motivations to read it like that, or maybe it could be a mistake in typing, or writing something like that. I will stop here. There is one conclusion I think he had, which I think is good for all other series we had before too. He says in this, he says the second takeaway. He has two takeaways. Okay, I don't go to the first takeaway. I think is take how to explain, but let's go this paragraph and finish it because I think has some conclusion where is very good. The second takeaway is that Islamic scriptural tradition of curation, scribal, performative, and interpretation, exegetical, theological are indispensable to this historical project to understanding Quran or what's behind it. Because we have this is looking to the issue of how we can use all the Islamic resources, not putting them aside. This revisionist of Western culture. The foregoing analysis proceeds from two equally plausible yet rival readings of Quran, preserved, parsed, and contested in Islamic tradition. They were right. Look, they were right. There were manuscripts. People were reading like that. There were manuscripts. They attested to it. First, somebody said they do it. It's okay. You are still reading. There were manuscripts. That shows how meticulous that scholarship was. Despite despite they don't like it, despite disagreement, they didn't hit it, they didn't tear it, they don't hide, they write it. There are like that somebody's. Insofar as both readings offer important insights, I have avoided speculating which reading reflects the text of some elusive or of Quran. It says he didn't argue which one of those readings may be the original Quran, the Quran prophet really recited was closer to it. Both readings shed light on the textual history of the Quran at its earliest stages and beyond. In this case, and likely many others as well, one may learn more about the Quran and textual formation, not when one discards the philological resources of the Islamic tradition, but rather when one integrates them with the other resources at our disposal and takes seriously the considerable insights they convey. I'm very thankful. It took a long time. It's very detailed, but I'm very thankful for your patience. I stop here. And if there's any question,